Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to call the East Greenbush Central School District Board of Education meeting for May 6th, 2026 to order. Our first order of business is the public hearing for the budget. Roll call, we are all present. Can you stand? Okay, our first order of business is the call of the meeting. We have a waiver for the reading of the public hearing. However, if anybody does want to read that document, it's about 3 pages. It is available online on Board Docs. So if you do want to read it, you can go there. Can I have a motion for the waiver? Mike, second. All those in favor?
So at this point in the meeting, we are going to present the information for the public hearing on the budget. A lot of what you will see tonight is summary information or repetitive information that we've presented throughout the course of the budget process. But since essentially this is the last iteration, if you will, before the public vote on May 19th, it is in the best interest of the district to share this information again, but also a statutory requirement that we do so with the public hearing. So let's begin. So as is required under the public hearing notice, the budget itself is published 4 times within 45 days preceding the May 19th vote. It is also going to be available on the district website. The public hearing notice includes the location and the time for our hearing. Also includes the availability of where our budget documents will become available between tomorrow. We'll have the voting date and the propositions, the election of the board members and the process for doing so. We'll have our polling sites, our voter registration information, the qualification of voters, and the absentee ballots. So the essential question is really what's on the ballot. And as we have been discussing over time, the board has previously adopted a budget totaling amount for the 26-27 fiscal year proposed of $118,872,000, which is at or below the maximum allowable tax cap at the levy of 3.33%. Also, voters will be asked to consider the purchase of 6 large diesel school buses. This will be fully funded and paid for if approved by the voters from our bus reserve. And finally, we have 4 candidates running for 3 open board seats for the term of 26 through 29. Before we get into some of the details, we always like to celebrate, as we have done so in the past, what's going well in our district. It's important to take note that each year, under requirement of the federal government and the regulations of the state education department, schools throughout every school district in New York State essentially get a rating. The highest rating that a school can get and a district can get is to be a school in good standing. We're always very pleased to announce that all district schools throughout the district are in good standing for this current school year, according to the New York State Education Department. We also have been voted the best public school district in the Capital Region, and we have 5 schools selected again to the U.S. News and World Report Best School. Athletic teams continue to show how strong our program is. We've had 5 teams win Section 2 championships: soccer, game day cheer, competitive cheer, girls volleyball, and indoor track. I was very pleased earlier this year to be able to attend the induction ceremony for our varsity baseball coach, who was inducted into the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame. We've had 22 of 24 of our varsity teams for fall and winter receive New York State Scholar Athlete Team Awards. I think it's really important for us to notice what that means for the grade point average that our competitive student athletes must maintain throughout the course of the year, showing their dedication not only to their teams and the sports that they participate in, but also that the time that they put in behind the scenes to make sure that their grades stay strong, showing how really positive, and how strong an influence our teachers have in the background for them as well, knowing where the priorities land with their academics. We also had a student named to the Capital District Grand Scholastic Sportswoman of the Year, Olivia Landy, for 2025. Our art program also continues to shine. We've had 9 Columbia students have artwork accepted into the 27th Annual Regional Art Exhibition. Bethany Lewis and Myla McGuffin had artwork featured in the Art in 3 Dimensions show. And 95 students featured the work at the Empire State Plaza student exhibit. And we have our upcoming district-wide art show on May 14th, where we'll see great work from our students throughout the entire district. For the first time ever, our music program has been named one of the best communities for music education for 2026. This is a rigorous application process. We're so proud of everything that our staff does, not only to provide a high-quality music education program for our students, but also to achieve this level of notoriety around the country. If you go out to the NAM website, you will see districts and schools all throughout the United States that have applied for and achieved this notoriety. And it is a great attribute to the great work that happens here. We also had a Columbia student nominated for the Best Student Orchestra in 2026 for the High School Musical Theater Awards. Eli Merritt performed in the NYSSMA All-State Symphonic Band, and we had 5 students from Columbia High School selected for the NYSSMA Area All-State Festival. None of that would be possible without the great and very strong support that we have from our faculty and staff. Recently learned that Ms. Jamie Couchet from Green Meadow was named the EJTA Teacher of the Year. We had 3 golf teachers receive New York State Senate Educators Inspiring a Generation Award. Marco, Lori, and Mr. Yearsley from middle school. Green Meadow teacher Kelly DeBello was also recognized by WMHC during Teacher Appreciation Week. And we had 5 teachers featured at the New York State Teachers Art Exhibit. That happened recently over in Albany. We had 4 teachers win Broadview Education Awards. We had Janae teachers named as the New York State TESOL Co-Teaching Pair of the Year Award. Bresnahan was named for a finalist for the Barry Manilow Music Teacher Award. So Ross was named New York News Channel Top 13, Channel 13 Top Teacher. And Mr. Columbus and Asmar recently were inducted to the Columbia Hall of Fame last weekend. We have some great ongoing work that everyone has taken notice of in terms of our capital improvement project, but we also are in our 2nd year in a row of all of our students being eligible and receiving free breakfast and lunch. We have, for the first time, 2 student representatives on the Board of Education. Thank you, Ms. Phillips and Mr. Ball. The capital improvement project is now getting ready to enter into its 3rd phase almost. And all of this is really built on a strong business office. We continue to receive strong credit ratings from Moody's. Our fiscal stress score remains positive for the 13th year in a row. And we received recently, as was shared here at a previous board meeting, an award for school safety from Utica National. Just to touch on some highlights that were also reviewed during a previous board meeting about our academic programs and our support programs throughout all of our buildings. All of our class sizes remain at or below our district level guidelines. The programs that will be supported in this budget support the work that is ongoing both at the state level and here in the district regarding the new Portrait of a Graduate, both the Portrait of a Graduate that's been shared by New York State and what our school has been working on. Our district has been working on from the committee level as well. We are always endeavoring to look at ways where we can increase graduation options and pathways for all of our students, CTE and AP and college level offerings. Our student support services remain strong for all of the students that we have and the diverse students throughout the district. We continue to support our UPK program. We also will be looking at ways to strengthen our teaming approach at the middle school. Always looking at ways to support student well-being by restructuring our cohorts and looking at a comprehensive approach to art, music, athletics, and extracurricular offerings throughout the district. As we know, we adopted earlier this year a new strategic plan. Our strategic plan will run from 2025 to 2027. That was supported by the board goals being adopted following that in October of 2025. And some of our key focal points from that strategic plan and from the board goals include, as we discussed a moment ago, portrait of a graduate. We're looking at sustaining positive professional development for all of our staff throughout the district that supports those goals. One of the key areas that the board honed in on during the last strategic development of the strategic plan was looking at how do we make connections with portions of the community where there are additional needs. We also always look to focus on policy initiatives that look to the future. As we know, graduation requirements are changing in New York State. The need to receive a high school diploma here in New York will not any longer be predicated just on taking 5 Regents exams, and we want to make sure that the policy that we work with the board on supports looking to the future with that. Now looking a little bit more specifically at what does our budget look like for this year, I should say for the proposed 26-27 school year. Obviously, the largest portion of the revenue that the district receives, as you'll see over on the left-hand side, comes between local property taxes that are collected and from state and federal aid that the government, the state funds the district with directly. And then if you look over on the right-hand side, our largest expenditures fall in the area of salary and benefits. If you look further down, some of our BOCES expenditures are directly to student programs. Our debt service relates directly to our capital improvement project. The other category really falls into the buckets of general district operations, from things like buildings and grounds, utilities, any of our equipment purchases fall in there, computer equipment falls in there. That's one of the smaller amounts of the expenditure side of the budget. Again, this is an overall summary of the budget. It looks at a year-to-year comparison from 25-26 to 26-27 of what the anticipated revenue will be and the proposed expenditures will be. On the next slide, it will show you in general how we intend to balance that budget. Again, comparing the revenues, we knew that we had to fill a gap of about $2 million. We did so by appropriating the same amount of reserve and fund balance as was used in the 25-26 school year. It also shows you on this slide where the anticipated revenues will come from to be able to do that for this year. Also important to consider is the historical tax cap and where the levy has fallen in comparison to that tax cap for the last 10 years. If you look at the years from 2019-20 all the way through and including 2024-25, these were our COVID years. And if we remember during the COVID years, 2 separate things happened in terms of our revenue. Number one, there was a settlement of a lawsuit that was going on at the state level regarding the funding of the foundation aid formula. And the foundation aid formula, just for sake of clarification, is the general pool of money that all school districts receive to really fund the general operations of your school district. Up until that lawsuit was settled, many districts were only funded, according to the law, at about 50 to 60% of actually what they were supposed to receive. And during that time period when the lawsuit was settled, any district that was underfunded as per that formula began to receive incremental increases through those years. So when you see those time periods from 1920 all the way through to 24-25, one of the reasons that the tax levy was kept low was that the district didn't have to go to the local share of the budget to look to increase its revenue to cover some of the anticipated costs. Similarly, at that time, there was a lot of COVID money coming down from the federal government. There were grants given to school districts to cover expenses related to the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the things to keep in mind that districts were told when they received those funds, they had to be spent. We couldn't put them in reserves. There was no creation of a rainy day fund. So any additions that we made in terms of personnel or in other resources, we now need to keep in mind because we made those additions, that revenue is now ended or it's leveled off. And we need to figure out how we're going to balance that moving forward. So when you see the tax levy increase start to come back to where it was on average in 2025-26, that's an indication of those revenues between the increased foundation aid and the COVID monies coming to an end, us having to return to the use of the local share to be able to pay for our increased expenses. So a question always arises that what would the impact be of the proposed budget? So with a tax levy increase, and I'll say this again, is an estimate. There's a lot of assumptions here on the slide that everyone can read on their own, that for an average home valued at about $400,000, a tax levy increase would equate to about $13.82 a month. And again, please refer to the bottom table to be able to see the differences based on the assessed value, your equalization rates based on the township that you live in. There's a lot of different variables that could change this based on your home and potentially where you live. Looking at the expenditure side of the budget, one of the things that we've been talking about on an ongoing basis is really the challenge that the district is facing in terms of healthcare costs. When you look at the employee benefits portion of the increase for 26-27, this is the first year ever that we're starting to see the cost of benefits outpace every other expenditure in the budget.
And most, I got a quick question. I'm so sorry. Like, think about that last slide, right? Last year, I appreciated it a lot, right? Like 13 point. One of the challenges. And I just worry that if there's any inaccuracy in it, like when I say inaccuracy, not anything. What I'm trying to say is it varies too much from the experience of the community. I worry about presenting that figure just for how it might be received. Experience. That's just what I'm just saying.
I don't think there's any inaccuracy there. That's why we tried to put at the bottom of the slide all the different caveats.
Yeah.
We have 7 different townships.
Yes.
6 different townships.
That's why I clarified my comment.
Yeah.
To live the experience, right? The homeowners, the 200 of them. So they see us say like, and that's, I'm just trying to say, like, just.
And I think one of the things to keep in mind too, so we all know that in the last budget session, the last budget fiscal year, at the same time that we were dealing with the need to increase the budget at the amount we did, the town of East Greenbush also went through a reassessment, which dramatically would have impacted this.
Which wouldn't be from the tax itself.
Would not be from the tax itself, it would have been from the reassessment.
Correct. Thank you so much.
So again, one of the things to keep in mind, as I was saying, that as we look at healthcare costs now outpacing all other expenditures in the budget, we're going to work throughout the year to the things that we can control to try to mitigate some of those costs at the same time. The next slide just shows by function area, meaning what department throughout the district where those expenditures will fall and the increases will fall for the anticipated budget for the 26-27 school year. And again, looking down the right-hand side, please take note that the employee benefits portion of this section of the budget is one of the greatest drivers of the increases for the new year. Now, I also want to talk about some of the reductions that were made in this budget proposal. So when we say total reductions, this is based upon taking the 25-26 budget and simply rolling it forward. If we had taken the exact same budget and made a mirror of the 25-26 budget, with us proposing revenue at or below the tax cap, that would have meant we would have needed another almost $2,100,000 to be able to balance the budget. With the board's directive of wanting to stay at or below the tax cap, we had to make certain reductions to be able to achieve that. Otherwise, we would have had to go further into our reserves to balance the budget, which would have accelerated the dwindling of the reserves that we have to monitor very closely. So again, in summary, we took about $350,000 from the instructional side. We took almost $720,000 from non-instructional. We took about $995,000 from non-salary items, and we took about $380,000 from operations and services reductions to get to that $2,100,000. And again, in the budget document, you'd be able to see some of the specifics of how we got there. And these are things that we have presented and discussed at a previous meeting as well. If you remember in one of the first slides, one of the propositions that will be on the ballot for this year too is the purchase of new vehicles. We try to be very conscious with our bus fleet of how quickly they age. Geographically, this is a very large district. Some of our vehicles can run almost 200 miles per day. Some even more, depending if they have to go to place special education placements that are even further from the district. Right now, we have 102 buses. We're able to run most of our buses approximately 12 years, and that is an average. That's not an exact. Depends on how many miles they go in a particular year. Our bus replacement plan is about 8 vehicles per year. We've been lagging behind a little bit on that, which we're watching very closely. We're trying to pay attention to this in regards to multiple different factors. Number one, the depletion of our bus reserve. Number two, the mandate of EV buses as well. So again, this year's proposition is to purchase 6 full-size diesel buses. Just to give a quick status update on where the 2025 proposition stands for the fuel buses that were approved by the voters. The voters have approved 4 66-passenger vehicles. Those buses have been delivered, are now in use in the fleet. There has been, an approval for 2 28-passenger buses. We canceled that order for 2 reasons. Number one, the manufacturer that we were using at the time had an issue where they were not able to deliver the specified buses that were approved by the voters, and we were able to cancel that. But we were able, for the 2 21-passenger wheelchair buses, to be able to go to a different manufacturer. We have one in use now that we've received, and another that is on order. And previously also, the community had approved the purchase of 2 zero-emission buses. We placed that on hold for the time being. Number one, there are upgrades that have to happen to our transportation facility for that to occur. But there's also a lot of legislative conversation happening on delay and or modification of the EV bus mandate. We don't want to proceed with spending a large amount of funds in purchasing these EVs until we have an opportunity to see potentially what those changes may or may not be. Again, this is just another detail. If the proposition to approve the new vehicles is approved, these would potentially be the 6 vehicles that we would trade in. Many of the manufacturers will take them, they'll scrap them. When they take them on trade-in, they'll give us a certain amount that we can return some of that funding to the cost of the purchase of the overall vehicles. And you can see these vehicles range anywhere from about 105,000 miles all the way upwards of about 150,000 miles. The goal here is in our bus purchase cycle to be able to fund our reserve for as long as we possibly can. 2 large mitigating factors. Number one, as you can see, our buses are aging faster than we're able to replace them right now. With the amount of mileage that our buses put, we're not able to purchase as many as are aging out, both with mileage and age. So we need to be mindful of that. The other piece that we need to be mindful of as well is the cost of an EV, if that mandate stays in place, is almost 3 times the cost of a regular diesel or fuel-powered bus right now. So in the event that the financial forecast holds, we'll need to, in the near future, as you'll see in the next slide, consider beginning to finance our vehicles. So instead of being able to pay cash for the vehicles, we have to include financing in the cost of the budget. The other piece that we need to be mindful of as well is the cost of an EV, if that mandate stays in place, is almost 3 times the cost of a regular diesel or fuel-powered bus right now. So in the event that the financial forecast holds, we'll need to, in the near future, as you'll see in the next slide, consider beginning to finance our vehicles. So instead of being able to pay cash for the vehicles, So essentially, there would be a line item in the budget to pay the annual, to cover the annual payments for whatever vehicles we continue to purchase. But this gives a snapshot, with that said, of where the current bus reserve stands. This is also assuming that the voter-approved EV buses that were in the last referendum, that money is still encumbered. And one of the things that we're taking a look at is, again, what the cost of those EVs are now, what modifications would we need to make in terms of the bus facility itself to be able to charge those vehicles, and then making assumptions on whether or not that resolution we would want to hold or not. So again, it just gives a snapshot of where the reserve stands at the end of the fiscal year. As we talked about in the beginning, we have 3 board seats that will be vacant. We'll have 4 candidates on the ballot for this year. The names that you see, Mr. Marcioni, Mr. Temple, Mr. Harrison, Mr. Buno, that will be the order that they are on the ballot. I don't know if we want to pause now. I believe all our candidates are here in the room, just to be able to identify yourself. Mr. Buno, if you want to start.
Yeah, I've been on the board for 12 years. I only my 5th term.
Rob Marcioni. This is my first year on the board. I took over the last year of someone who stepped down, so I'm running again for the second term.
Jessica Temple. This is my first term completed this year, running for my second term. Last year, I was board president, also served on 2 committees with Ms. Paul. And I'm running again because I believe the work is not done.
Mr. Harrison.
Shay Harrison, been on board before and glutton for punishment, so I'm back.
Thank you all very much. So finally, as we start to conclude, once the budget hearing is done, we'll finalize the budget packets tonight. That again will be available beginning tomorrow. The contents are listed here and what must be included in the budget packet. Also, excuse me, all those documents will be available on the district website as well. Again, some reminders on voting. The public budget vote will take place on Tuesday, May 19th from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. The district has 4 voting locations listed here, and they're all done by electronic voting machines. To be able to vote in the school budget vote, if you are not already registered, you can register in one of 3 places listed here. And it also shares the requirements for voting. Finally, the qualifications: you must be a citizen of the United States, 18 years old, and lived in the district for 30 days preceding the vote. And if anyone is seeking an absentee ballot, it gives you the process and how to do so, the due dates for having to do so, and the reasons that you would be eligible for a absentee ballot. Again, as per changes in New York State law, there's some information here on early voting. An application is required. Again, you would reach out to the office of the district clerk. The information is all listed in this packet and also can be located on the district website. Now, on May 19th, there is 2 courses of action. Number 1, if the budget passes, but it also gives some information here about if the budget fails. Because we're not looking to exceed the tax cap in this vote, we only need a simple majority for this year. So it is 50% plus 1 person for the budget to be approved for the fiscal year of 26-27. If the budget, for whatever reason, is not approved at the vote on May 18th, there are 2 options. Number 1, we can submit the same budget or modify the budget for a second vote that would occur on June 16th, or the board can move to immediately adopt a contingency budget. If the residents do defeat the budget after a second vote, the board must adopt a contingent budget, and that is due to state regulation. That would require approximately another $2 million in reductions from the current proposal from where we stand if we had to go to a contingency budget. Again, just in summary, the three propositions that will be on the ballot. First being the approval of the overall budget. As we stipulated, that is $118,872,000 budget. We're reflecting a tax levy increase of 3.33%. Again, we talked about the proposed bus purchases. Those would come directly from the reserve fund that the current district currently supports. And again, you'd be asked to elect 3 board members for the open seats that will occur at the end of this. So with that, turn it back to you.
Next up, we had introduction of candidates for the Board of Education. So we'll move on. Public comments. Residents, students, employees, and business representatives of East Greenbush Central School District may address the board on matters concerning programs and or operations of the district, other than matters involving personnel. Members of the board do not directly respond to citizen concerns during a public forum. If a response is appropriate, either the president or superintendent will contact the individual in the near future. Those persons wishing to address the board will be recognized by the chair of the meeting and should state for the record their name and address or affiliation with the district or business. While the board does not wish to infringe upon free speech protections, it must be stressed that the visitors' forum is not deemed to be an open forum. The board president will conduct the forum for the orderly and efficient operation of board business. In addition, any remarks may be considered defamatory or stigmatizing are prohibited and will be declared out. All comment shall be limited to 5 minutes. Number here, but I think these are waiting for the regular.
Okay.
So is there anybody that wanted to speak? For the public meeting? It said that was for that.
So is it clear that these comments are for the public hearing of the budget versus the regular meeting? Great.
My
We
name
have a
is
mix up.
Christina Southworth. I'm a student. Good evening. My name is Christina Southworth. I'm a junior at Columbia, and I came here today to discuss the matters of Miss Amber Smith being cut out of the 2026 to 2027 school year budget. I believe that her being cut from this new budget is unacceptable, given that she's a major school resource for both kids at Columbia and the kids in Gulf. Miss Smith has helped many kids, including my friends, who have continuously overcome mental health challenges, and she's also an advocate for people who struggle with mental health challenges along with challenges of addiction. She has taken charge of going into health classes at Columbia to discuss the effects of drugs and alcohol and also the health risks created by performing the action of having unsafe sex. These topics are very important for teenagers to learn about as well for adults too. As a student, I thought I knew a lot about these topics mentioned above, but Ms. Smith expanded my knowledge through interactive lessons she created to get more exposure about things most people didn't know about the topics. Now I want to step away from the effects that Ms. Smith has on students at both Goff and Columbia in the classroom, to talk about the type of person she is outside the classroom and the effects she has on the kids. Ms. Smith is the kindest and most compassionate person you will ever meet. The energy she brings into a conversation is something I feel you cannot find with any teacher and or guidance counselors you talk to. When you talk to her, whether you are ranting to her about something really random or talking to her about something serious that may have happened either that day or in the past, she sits there and listens to you until you're done talking. Then she gives you her opinions and feedback on where something can be improved. I know from experience when we have our chats in the morning, before first period or in between classes during the day, she's always willing to listen to me vent up to her about how I'm feeling. During these conversations, I feel very comfortable expressing my true feelings without feeling like I'm being judged or told to endure something I know continuously making me feel some sort of way down the road. These feelings can be expressed through other students who see Miss Smith daily, whether they're with her during their lunch periods or study halls, or just popping into her room in between classes just to say hi. The impact that Ms. Smith creates on the students within the East Greenbush schools is amazing, and her being cut shouldn't create a bigger declining impact on the kids based on how the money for this new budget is being allocated. Many kids in Goff already have to deal with the fact that the math program is being cut because of these budget restraints. I feel that Ms. Smith also being cut is just adding more salt to the wound and will cause more of a decline of children within the district going to seeking help from an adult that they feel they can trust. I would also like to include that a petition has been started to help Ms. Smith keep her job at East Greenbush schools, and more than 150 people have signed it, which is more than double of the 73 kids she currently has on her roster. Thank you for your time and generosity for hearing my comments about this new budget. I really hope you all consider my comments and decide to keep Ms. Smith in the budget. Thank you again and have a great day.
Ella Rathbone?
Hi, my name is Emma. I live at 517 Pointer Road. I'm an 11th grader at Columbia. Hi, my name is Ella Pan. I'm an 11th. Okay, I just said it. Sorry. I attend CTAP, and I was up here talking about similar budget cuts last year. And I think it's absurd and inconsiderate that I have to talk about the removal of mental health services within our schools yet again. As you heard last year, the CTAP program has saved my life. And I believe Ms. Smith is also saving lives through her work at Columbia and Goff. Every time I try and talk to the other counselors at the school, I am met with verbal dismissals and emotional invalidation. And while the other counselors are on top of grades and attendance, Ms. Smith always puts her best foot forward, genuinely caring for her students and making them feel seen. She's reliable and lights up every room she's in. Mental health is a serious topic, and I believe you should be adding more resources to the mental health programs here at Columbia instead of taking them away, as poor mental health can quickly take over students' lives, making it harder for them to keep their grades up. Thank you for your time. I hope you consider keeping Ms. Smith and keep thinking about the mental health and safety of your students. Thank you. Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Emma Witkowski. I'm a 17-year-old junior at Columbia High School. I'm here today to speak about my concerns regarding the proposed budget cuts and the potential removal of Ms. Smith from the East Greenbush Central School District. Throughout my time at Columbia, I've always been told that there is someone in the building I can go to when I'm struggling, whether it's a personal issue or something related to school. For me, that person has always been Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith is a substance abuse counselor who also assists in health classes. She strongly advocates for students to make healthy choices and support those who may be struggling with addiction or other challenges. Her impact goes far beyond her job title. Since my freshman year, Ms. Smith has supported me through some of the most difficult times in my life. During a period when I was experiencing a deep depression and I felt of taking my own life, she was there for me when I felt like I had no one else. She became someone I could trust and rely on. She also helped me work through my struggles with marijuana use, showing me that there is more to life and encouraging me to make better choices. She advocated for me and even got me into therapy when no one else would listen. In the US, 20% of teens suffer with major depressive disorder. 9% of teens have reported attempting suicide, and 0.01 to 0.2% of teens have unfortunately died through suicide. I could have been a part of that percentage. If it weren't for Ms. Smith, I don't know where I'd be or who I'd be today. And I can never thank her enough for being by my side through it all. Ms. Smith is one of the most compassionate, genuine, and selfless people I have ever met. She has helped me through everything from small challenges to major life changes. I have never felt judged or dismissed by her, and she has made me feel truly seen and understood. She has not only helped me, but countless other students, both current and former, who rely on her support. The connection she built with students is not something that can easily be replaced. Removing her from the district would leave a significant gap in support for so many students who depend on her. There are students like myself who turn to her because they feel like they have nowhere else to go. Losing her would mean losing a vital source of guidance, safety, and understanding. In addition to supporting students, Ms. Smith also contributes to the broader school community. For example, she works alongside Mr. Laguerre in health classes, helping educate students about substance use, safe decision-making, and overall well-being. She is also part of the SAD Club, Students Against Destructive Decisions. She plays a key role in teaching students how to make informed, healthy choices, and she does it exceptionally well. Ms. Smith plays an important role in the school and helps students. She does a lot more than just count the numbers of students she has and fill out papers. What you see is only the outside of her job. Everyone needs to see it on a deeper level and take a second to consider the amount of students and faculty's lives that would be shifting significantly. EGCSD ranked #1 school district. EGCSD says they advocate for mental health services, yet you want to take a huge support and advocate away. If you were going to do that, then tell me what was the point of having her position at all, unless you don't practice what you preach. In my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, Ms. Smith is an essential part of this district. She plays a critical role in students' lives and provides support that cannot be measured by a budget. Removing her raises an important question. What does the district truly value? East Greenbush has always stood for mental health advocacy, drug-free education, and a compassionate community. Without Ms. Smith, I believe those values would be significantly harder to uphold. I urge you to consider the impact of this decision, not just in terms of finances, but in terms of the students' lives who are directly affected. Thank you.
Nancy Sutton.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Sutton. I have students in the district and I didn't hear anything tonight because I never made about it. But I do know how important mental health care is in the school system. And I have 3 children and I have one coming up about to be in middle school. And I would hate to think that he would not get the same opportunities as my other children have. And Mrs. Smith's role at Columbia and golf have certainly helped me in just the Montgomery sprint and teenagers. And I don't know what I would do without that support. And as a school district, I don't think we can have a successful school district academically, emotionally, or as a community without mental health. And I think that Mrs. Smith is a very positive role, as well as the in-house. I think of the world, counselors, but I think that the combination of what Mrs. offers, as well as Mrs. Reynolds and all the others, is truly important, and to cut her would be a disservice to the rest of the kids coming up. And the ones that she already has, she's made a lot of connections with a lot of people, and I really think she's important, as well as that role once she decides to leave it.
Ingrid Espinosa. I want to go during this.
Yes, I'm Dr. Thank you. My name is Ingrid Espinosa. I'm with 1105 Forest Point Drive. And I'm so happy to see so many people speaking out for Ms. Amber Smith's position, because I am here on behalf of my son, who begged me for the first time to come to a board meeting and speak on her behalf. Ms. Amber Smith's position is critical, and I can't speak any better than everybody already has. So I don't want to repeat. Everybody's been so eloquent. I just need to say that my son has tremendously benefited from her, and I can say, and I knew that a lot of kids are very moved and upset at hearing the news that her position may be cut. So I'm here to beg, if there's anything, I know these are very difficult decisions that you are making, but if there's anything that can be done to save her, other funding sources, anything outside the box that we can think of, to please do, because for my son to really, speak up on a matter for the first time and advocate for this it shows me the impact that she's made on his life and all the kids' lives. So thank you. Just want
If I may, I'm can I speak for someone that couldn't make it here. I'm speaking on behalf of Brian Barger Jr. He texted me saying that yes, she should keep her position. Kids really open up to her, and we all love her. And now I would like to speak for myself. I feel like she needs to say due to her helping me with things that I've gone through and others. I feel like things that she has I feel things she has made. I feel like she has made a huge impact on her community, Everything the students have said and will always be confidential. And this is important for a large portion of students. She's helped me with my life choices, and if it weren't for her, I don't know who I would be right now. I feel like she needs to stay for the good of all. What will you do if you take her away and it takes kids away? Takes kids' lives away. What will you do then? I hope that you guys keep this in the back of your mind and have a good one.
Lawrence?
I had it. My hairstylist did not do a good job. Good evening, everyone. So, I recognize two drivers here. If you're a driver, put up your hand. So I'm here on behalf of the bus garage. I just came in and I forgot about the meeting. I'm the last driver in the bus garage. And I forgot that there was this meeting today, and my wife, who is a retired teacher, said, you got to go. And one of the reasons she gave that of driving the bus, because I don't want to stay with a retired woman in the house. So, I don't know about that. But I'm here to speak about the position of the vice supervisor in the garage. I think the person who came up with that idea that we should have a vice in the garage, if I know who that person is, I'll be giving him a donut every day. Because I think that's one of the things the garage really needed. I was forced to retire from my former job, and I was brought in to work with by a friend who was a mechanic here, who, as a matter of fact, decorated my office. And he brought me here. He's retired now, and he left me behind. The reason I'm saying this is because I've been through 4 supervisors in the garage. And the best thing that has ever happened to the garage is to have that extra force on the side. And I'm saying this, I don't think I've ever spoken to my supervisors, but when I heard that this was happening, and I said, please, if there is a way you can keep that and negotiate, well, the money paid, just do that. The best thing that has happened to the bus garage is to have that extra force behind it. And I'm telling you, I went through Marianne, Dr. Wanda, Mark, and now we have Mr. Greg. And if you can keep that position, please do. The year is going to start, and I'm pleading. I have been through 4 supervisors, and I know exactly what has happened in that garage. And if there is a way, please, you can negotiate with that, keep that position. That's all I came to express here. So my wife will be happy with me. Thank you. Again, as you said, I'm doing 208 miles every day. One bus, so that's a lot of wear and tear that we're having. That's my heart. Want to see you drive the bus tomorrow. Thank you all very much.
Christine Blake? You want to go in the next? Okay. And- So. So board comments?
What was the name? They called Floyd.
We're gonna have you go in the public meeting or in the regular business meeting.
Okay, just let me know when I get up.
Yeah. So Kathy, any comments on budget?
I've said what I've said. I don't need to say it again, so because
I definitely have a comment. But budgets are tough decisions, right? I think, there's a revenue side, there's an expenditure side, right? And at the end of the day, ultimately, there's people underneath, right, all of the decisions. And I think that, and I don't mean it like in response, to the comment at all, but it's hard not to acknowledge, right, sentiment, right, that our community feels, right? And I just want to just acknowledge, I think, it's not just, what gets said, but also not the words used, but also what's underneath it, right? The way people are feeling, right? And I think it's important to acknowledge that. Me myself, I just want to talk about me, right? Because ultimately we make decisions as a board, I think I struggle with, because there's a future to it, right? And I think that, the district has to make challenging decisions looking towards the future and thinking about today. And so here's the thing, and I don't mean to rant. I want to try to be very clear with that, right? At the end of the day, right? I think it's important that we support kids, right? That we support emotional well-being. And the truth is, I think employment security is important as a district. Considering that, I think we have to also consider the long-term ability for our administration to make difficult decisions, right? Because every decision we're going to make looking towards the future is going to impact kids. And balancing that sometimes is challenging. I think definitely we can look very critically and make decisions together about what we do this year. But I don't want to ramble. I'm just trying to just give that's what I'm at as a board member. Just looking at it, it's that I'm not like those comments are not remiss on me, right? And I'm just trying to keep the whole picture together myself, like as a position. I think as a but that's just where it's at. But all the decisions is hard. It's but we definitely hear it. So sure.
I just want to say thank you to the students. I know this is an intimidating environment and you guys did a wonderful job keeping the lines. We do listen to the students and the families. We've had a lot of feedback about the budget. I think what Mr. Temple is saying is these are very challenging decisions for us and never do we want it to harm the students. But I just want to say kudos and thank you for your involvement in giving us your impression of what's happening.
Yeah, I would just like to echo Ms. Hare and say thank you so much to all the students who came. I think you all were very eloquent and it's a really hard thing to do. It takes a lot of courage and you can tell that you care a lot. So thank you very much for being here and speaking. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I would agree. Thank you to the students and boards who spoke. I've been through several budgets and there never is an easy budget, no matter what your resources are. I think, I've taken some notes. I am concerned about some things you said about not having another adult to speak to and having another option to, deal what's happening with the budget. But I think that for us, we need to follow up on what your concerns are generally too, because it's important that you feel that you can have someone to go to and not just one adult, but multiple people. So I want to assure you that this board is going to follow up on what you said and make sure that I personally will and make sure that your voice is heard. Okay.
I echo what's already been said. I think please keep coming and speaking and sharing your ideas. I think that's just of such critical importance. And I think, we learn a lot from our public engagement and we hope we still get it.
Sam's word, thanks for coming in, and it's not an easy thing to do, and we do listen, so thanks for coming.
Yeah, I didn't know it was the right form to say it. It is concerning that you feel the need to go to a floating. I'm not saying she's just a floating nurse, but to me, when we're looking at the position of a floating nurse, no impact on, we didn't think about the impact on mental health, but I didn't know that would be an issue. So that's what's that's the interesting concept.
So for now, we're gonna be closing the public hearing and moving into the regular circuit meeting. Sure. All right, about 2-minute reset. Regular meeting. We're still all here, so we've already done the pledge, so everybody's okay with moving on to the next item. I think they left. So I guess we will skip student council tonight. So approval of draft minutes dated April 15th. Any comments or questions? Motion to approve. Cindy, second. RP, all those in favor? And approval of draft minutes dated April 21st. Any comments or questions on that one? Motion to approve. Happy, second. RP, all those in favor? Okay. So moving into the public comment section for the regular meeting. Christine Blake, Jim Galvin, and Rachel Putz.
Good evening to all. I'm Christine Blake, a teacher at Goff Middle School, and I'm here with my colleagues to speak on behalf of the Goff Middle School Math and Jumpstart programs and their impact on students and families in our district. We completely understand these programs are being cut due to difficult budget realities, but we are here tonight to make sure their impact is not forgotten. And when financial conditions improve, hopefully the district will remember their value and consider reinstating them. Middle school is one of the most vulnerable and formative stages of a child's life. For many of our students, a traditional setting alone has not been enough. That's why the math program was created in 2015 for 7th and 8th graders and later expanded to 6th grade after COVID, when the need became even more urgent. The students referred to math are students who need more support. Some struggle with anxiety, academics, or behavior in a larger environment. Some are navigating difficult home situations. Many are simply trying to build confidence and find their footing. While many enter the program with attendance, academic, or disciplinary challenges, our data and daily experiences over the past 10 years show these challenges were significantly greater before enrollment and often intensified when students left the program. In fact, several students who chose to leave, often against our recommendation, later requested to return after struggling in general education classes. A father of a current student reached out, and here are some of his thoughts. I have seen the growth in my son and his passion for wanting to learn and be a better student and actually care about school. At the beginning, he was a nervous and shy student and didn't put too much care into school. Now into 8th grade from 6th grade, he is completely a different kid. He has the confidence I always knew he could have. But the truth is, there are more students like my son that can absolutely use a program like this. We don't want to see them fall through the cracks. The proof is there, this program works, and I feel it would be failing future students that would need this program.
Oh, it's for the streaming. Oh, cool. All right, good evening. My name is Tim Galvin. I'm a 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher at Goff. I'm also the social studies teacher for the math program. First, I'd like to say that as a history teacher, I've been going to a lot of these meetings lately in my town here, and I appreciate all of us, everybody here, stakeholders, and part of your civic participation. It's institutions like these that form the bedrock of our democratic republic. In my class, we're covering World War II, We just went over FDR using the four freedoms, and what always comes to mind at these meetings is the guy with Norman Rockwell's still the guy standing up in free speech. So thank you for everybody. I'd like to use my time to highlight some of the concrete data about the MAP program, highlight some of our program extracurriculars, and share some of the praise for our program. First, we went through some of our new students that were added into our 8th grade class this year, who had not been in the program the previous couple of years at Goff. I had a slideshow with their data to show it tonight. You will get copies of that for you to review at a later time. When looking at their data, comparing their stats from their 6th grade to 7th grade, their GPAs have seen significant increases compared to now their time in the MAP program, just showing the benefits of the program. Second, the MAP and Jumpstart programs have benefited students beyond their core classes. Every year, we conduct a beginning of the year team building retreat at our East Greenbush Town Park. Over the years, Mrs. Mathis has taken many of our students in many theatrical plays. Mrs. Blake has gotten their participation for the character ed assemblies that she organizes. Ms. Foley has brought them to science museums, and myself have been bringing them to various historical sites and museums around our area. For some, this might be the first and only time our students are able to attend the theater and to experience some of the rich history our area has to offer. Also, there has been a homework club held every Thursday, as well as in the past, there's been a crafting club organized by the wonderful TA, Mrs. Maureen Tranowski, who is mere weeks away from her own retirement. In the past, we have organized donation gift bags for the Rensselaer County's Concerned View. And lastly, Mrs. Dunn, our guidance counselor, and Mr. Eggleston, our social worker, have held SEL circles over the past few years to help students with their mental health. Third, our 8th graders recently toured the CAP program at Columbia and spoke with former MAP students about their success and how they attribute that success to our program. One such student is a student by the name of Soren, and they wrote the following message. Hey, Mr. Galvin, I heard the news from the teachers at CAP that the MAP program is being shut down after this year. I wanted to send my best regards to all of the teachers I met in my years at middle school, especially you. You guys were the best inspiration and motivation to grow into where I am now. I don't think I would have made it this far without the help Matt provided. I cannot stress enough how much you guys have given me the strength to keep my head up, keep moving, even when things got tough. It is the extra support that MAP offers, especially with our full-time teams, Mr. Chimowski and Lauren Koshkar, that have provided that extra success that these students need. Finally, 3 years ago, our administration brought faculty and staff to tour neighboring school districts to see how things are done in their schools. And our program was touted as a success story and seen as a model for those schools to replicate. Also, it was one of the highlights given to potential superintendents when we're searching for a new superintendent this coming year. In summary, our program has benefited all of our members in many ways that are seen in us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Mathis, and I teach 7th grade English at Goff Middle School. And I'm also the dedicated English teacher in the 7th and 8th grade math program. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the MAP and Jumpstart programs, particularly the students who will be impacted by the termination of the program. I firmly believe that students are more successful when they feel connected in school. When students are struggling with attendance issues, behavior issues, or academically, the common denominator is usually a feeling of disconnection. In my eyes, the best thing about the MAP and Jumpstart programs is that because of the small class sizes and the fact that 7th and 8th grade students loop with their teachers, the 4 core teachers, students see school differently. When some of our students heard that the programs were ending, many of them wanted to write letters expressing their thoughts. In the interest of time, I'm going to read just a couple of short sections from a couple of their letters. This is from a 7th grade student. The removal of the MAP program will take a toll on people who need extra help. To some, being overwhelmed with many assignments to regular classes is too much to handle. You may be late for class. You may be late for a class since walking through the halls to find your class every class period can be overwhelming. MAP is a good program and helps people who need to learn a little slower, for not switching classes every day, and to help you feel comfortable in class. That was one of my 7th graders. And then one of our 8th graders shared this. Hello, school district. I am a student at Goff Middle School. I have been a part of the Jumpstart program and the MAP program. For me to hear that both of those programs are being cut from the school for budget cuts, I think is a huge mistake. 3 years ago, when I was at Green Meadow, I wasn't doing good in school. doing good in school. My grades were never good. I always had a bad attitude of my work, and I never really cared about school until I started the program. Since then, I'm skipping, so the program helped me find confidence in school in general. Now I strive for more. This program has a lot of kids that don't come from good homes or good situations. The MAP program is a safe place for kids to get away from their problems in life. Without it, we will have to fend for ourselves, and as kids in middle school, we're still trying to find out who we are. So I wanted to close, so thank you for hearing that. And I wanted to close by saying that as educators, we completely understand that difficult situations need to be made based on financial realities. We understand that, we get that. But on behalf of our students, we hope the program's positive outcomes will remain part of future conversations and planning. And we hope that you will keep the positive impact we have had on the many students we've had throughout the years since 2012, 2015. 2015, still a lot of years. So we hope that you will keep the positive impact we have had on the many students we've served throughout the years in mind in the event that the budget situation allows the program to return. So thank you so much on behalf of our kids and our programs. Thank you so much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Lawyer, please.
First of all, I'd like to thank our superintendent of schools, Dr. Katz, is that how you say your name?
Coates.
Coates? Okay, sorry about that. Little background on me. I graduated from Colony Central High School in 1967. 2 months later, I was in the Navy. Spent 22 years in the Navy, learned a lot of things. And the places that you guys never heard of. Anybody know where Sardinia is?
Island off of Italy.
You don't know where it is?
Isn't it an island off Italy?
Oh, anyway, it's a small island. France and Italy fought for it for a long time. Now I guess it's owned by Italy, but anyway. I've been to about 20-some countries. I elevated myself to the rank of first-class petty officer, yeoman. Well, you don't know what a yeoman is. A lot of people ask me that. You should get your English teacher attuned to this. It's an old English word for writer. I work for captains of ships, for executive officers of ships. I'm just saying all this so you can see my background. I'll try to digest it down a little bit. I've been in battle groups. I've been off the coast of Israel when we had a battle group going on, and nobody heard about it in 1970 because the Vietnam War just overran what we did, and we didn't count. We did get a medal for it, Admiral Zembwall, and that's a meritorious citation. I love the Navy. I still do. I miss going to sea, but I learned so many things. It was an education in itself. And I can see that with all you people here. You're very well-educated people. I have a daughter that's the oldest and the smartest, and she's a teacher. She teaches at Hoosick Falls High School. She teaches English. I have my oldest son graduated from the East Greenbush School District, so did my youngest one. My oldest one is now a union carpenter. My youngest one works for NCON. He has a degree in cobalt skill and technologies. Very smart about fish and different things. I don't even know what they are. I got to ask him. But you have a really good school district here. I can't blame any of the stuff that's being spent. The only question I had was on that sheet I think I gave a young lady back here. I just wondered with these elementary schools where they're tearing up the playground and they're putting in all this new stuff. Was that on the budget from last year, or is this something new that they're going to pay for?
So,
Does anybody know?
Yeah.
Yeah, we know. Yep.
2024. So in 2024, there was a separate community referendum put before the public for approval.
Okay,
That was approval for financing for the current capital upgrades that are going on in all 7 of the schools, including the playground equipment. But also,
that's good.
also included in that though is improvements to heating, ventilation, air conditioning in the buildings, some roofing work, paving work. There's a wide variety of capital work that's happening in every school. Some program updates as well. All 7 of the libraries in each of the buildings will be have. There's some classroom improvements in terms of door hardening and new doors in some of the buildings. So, but that was a completely separate referendum. It did not come out of the annual budget vote from last year.
And it's budget neutral.
Yeah.
It's excellent.
Want to congratulate again. I think that you are what East Greenbush School District needed here for a long time, and I really mean that. You're really saying this stuff in a way that we can understand what's going on. I saw the numbers and stuff like that, and that's good. It's really tremendous good. One other thing, when you do a job in the Navy, we are trained by our military leadership school, which I also went to. I went on as a reservist, spent the rest of my time to get my 22 years. I went back to college, 2 different colleges, graduated from Adirondack with a business administration degree, which is very valuable to me today. I've done a lot of paralegal work when I was a yeoman, mainly writing guys up on report for doing various different things. I won't get into that. I had to sit through a couple of court martials because I had to learn how to do a court martial and all that stuff and took notes. So I did a lot of paralegal stuff, but I learned, and it was a great education. If anybody here wants to go in the Navy, let me know. I belong to the Fleet Reserve Association, and I drop off information here to your school district like I did others in the area. A couple of years ago, we did have a first place winner from East Greenbush Schools. I don't remember her name. I remember the street she lived on, but I don't remember her name. And that was during the COVID, and she was first place. And the Fleet Reserve gives a top prize of $5,000 out, scholarship money, so they can go to college. And I thought that's good. I'm their secretary treasurer. I'm also a past regional president of the New England states and the Northeast, we call it. We had Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. So I've learned a lot there. I travel a lot with them. I've been across the country on a train to see the United States, and it's a beautiful country. Really do. So I get emotional when I think of my country, but it's a great area. I learned even how to steer a ship and how to go out the Delaware River. I didn't think I had to work up on the bridge. They said, "Oh no, you're going to be a helmsman. We're going to teach you how to steer a ship and get it going." And they did. It's not like it into a powerboat. Yeah, they're a great big ship is, it's a heavy thing. I've been on 12 different ships, and I learned a lot of things from other countries. I've been a lot of foreign places, a lot of places. I think I counted it up. I think it's 22 countries. And I've been to about probably 30 states. So I've done a lot of travel in my lifetime. And I'm 76, and I think it's 3 weeks from today, I'll be 77. And I'm still going strong. I planted a garden here about a week ago. I do different things like that. I feed my birds because I love animals. And I've got a dog, and I live here in East Greenbush, and it's a nice community. And I really think that everyone here is great. I'm not knocking anybody for anything because I think you all have to participate to get a good budget, and it's hard to do that. I see it all the time because I'm the treasurer of my branch. We call it a branch, and I see that myself when they'll come to me and say, "Well, we have any bills to pay?" No. And I'll go, "Well." So you're doing a good job. I don't want to sit here any longer. I'm sorry if I took up too much time, but I wanted to let you know that. Oh yeah, one other thing the Navy taught me. They taught me to be a DJ, this job. I was on WIND radio, Armed Forces radio station, where they taught me how to read news, and then I got to doing music. I came up from active duty, and I started doing different gigs, and I still do it. And so when I see these microphones, I always said, "Here, talk right into the mic so they can hear me." So that's what I had to do. But if you need a
a good DJ. I played in a couple of schools around here, and I do it for the Boys and Girls Club down here in Rensselaer and some other places. And for the Miracle League, I've been playing for Bird Adams now for 20 years or better. So it's amazing how time goes by, but I still do that. And I do weddings too, if anybody wants to.
I have thought these meetings would be better with a DJ.
I'll let you go.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
So, thank you, Chrissy, Rachel. I was here when the map and jumpstart came out, 2015. And it was an important program for us. We're facing a lot of challenges with the alternative students that, the needs that they brought. And as we tried to streamline things to meet the different elementary schools and adjusting to the big school, right? And it was an important program for us. And I just want to say that everyone involved in that program, I appreciate and respect you. You do great things for kids. You know, continue to do great things for kids. And you know, if there's a way we can do something different to meet their needs, we'll figure that out together.
I just want to say thank you to the Education Foundation. We had a wonderful evening celebrating our alumni and some special teachers. So Chelsea Goodbrand, the Shining Star, that's a new award. So she was selected. Megan Essenbauer, Bill Plum, who I didn't know. I didn't go to Columbia, so I didn't know Bill Plum, but that was a treat to see him speak. He's obviously well liked by the community. And of course, Casey Greenbush, which that was a very heartwarming award. So thank you to everyone for that.
I also want to thank educators. I do want to say, one thing I think as a district to be careful of is like data, right? Like a lot of the times how we have people, like how we have students, anyone in society, right, go unheard, right? It's because if you watch the data, right, the data might have you overlook certain populations, right? So in my mind, the data is not always the story, right? Because it's hard to see when someone touches you when you're going through your day, right? You don't necessarily embrace all your challenges, right? You could have a hard night, right? You might not want to go to school because of peers, right? It could be, you haven't developed the skills like of how to even manage, right? What's happening in day to day. So it don't always show as academic progress, right? How our educators, how our nurses, right, touch students. And I just want to caution against the use of data when we're talking about touching people, particularly those who might not be heard, right? And I think when thinking about initiatives, dealing with certain populations, I think data is like the North Star that organizations use, but the flex, right, and the equity that we search for, right, has to go beyond, right, what's on paper. I just wanted to say that just in general, right? But as aside from that, I totally relate to the story. Right, I was one of those. I never really qualified for a program, but I peripherally would always interact with the adults in these programs, right? And a lot of the stuff I would get was in passing, and you get those nuggets that you can where you can, right? And I totally appreciate that point. But I just wanted to say that. But I do appreciate the work. I totally understand the story being communicated.
Not tonight. I guess I didn't understand what was happening during the public comment section of their part. So the floating nurse is different than the
Rensselaer County contract.
Yeah, that's not part of our budget.
Correct. That was in one of the earlier presentations.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. Thank you for that. Mr. Albee isn't here, so I mean, we went to the holidays, the open house. It was really cool. I mean, all the kids, I see it every time I've been to elementary school. I'm always amazed at how good the kids really are. It's so exciting to see that, but really cool. Very exciting to watch that. But other than that, that's all I have.
usually say anything, but it is Teacher Appreciation Week, so I just want to send a huge shout out to all of our teachers. They do an amazing job every day. Put in, want to know how many hours every day. So thank you for all you guys do. Administrative reports.
Awesome.
So I wanted to give the board an update on some of our outstanding policy issues for this year. We did have, with some of the restructuring of our committees this year, 3 scheduled attendance and policy committee meetings. Those 3 meetings were largely very productive. The policy committee took a look at the attendance brochure that all of our buildings use to share the value of good attendance with our students and families. There's some very good conversation on looking at the attendance letters that we send. We looked at the tone and nature of those letters. The tone and nature of the letters that we were sending were somewhat punitive. And we really tried to shift to a tone of looking at how we can better support families while still having a lens of accountability. And we also looked at mechanisms, how we were communicating attendance issues throughout the buildings. But as you may have remembered, there were a variety of different policy issues that have come up throughout the year that we have had some one-off issues where we really need the policy committee to come back together to make some decisions on new adoptions and or revisions. So we've gone forward, we have scheduled a policy meeting, an additional one beyond the calendar that had been established at the beginning of the year for May 26th at 3:30. And just to review with the board, because this is one of the board's main responsibilities, the policies that we will be reviewing at the upcoming policy committee meeting. Obviously, we have discussed previously work from home policy. If the board chooses to adopt that after it's reviewed by the policy committee, would be an adoption. Our finance committee, audit committee rather, had reviewed a credit card policy that Mrs. Mulligan had asked for revisions on. That will be sent to the policy committee for review. Obviously, we know from earlier in the year that we had some issues regarding a bus accident, looking at our protocol. We'll be looking at our policy and regulation related to bus accidents. Mr. Goodwin's been working with a subcommittee also on implementation of AI. They recently have put forth a recommendation for artificial intelligence. That had many different questions regarding field trips come up throughout the year. We're just taking a look at our field trip policy. Similar to that, with the visitation of the GAP students also, this has triggered us to take a look at the visitors to the school buildings. And if we do have guests such as foreign exchange students, how do we ensure safety throughout the building when they come in? We want to take a look at that. There's been some questions regarding selection of library books, and in some informal conversations, we found that our policy has not been visited and or updated for some time, and we know there's some important revisions that we have to consider there. Tutoring and homebound instruction, again, the same thing, volunteers in schools. And then there was also recently with some of the increases in courses that we were doing in terms of college credits and when students take those courses, to revisit that policy as well. So it's ambitious. We know it's a long list, but our goal is to try to get a red line version out to the policy committee a week before the meeting so that members of the committee have an opportunity to look through all this. We'll have what we hope to be some fruitful discussion to move forward then to make recommendations to the board shortly thereafter for our first week. Wanted to give that update. Anything else I can clarify in terms of work that we're doing?
Yeah, the attendance policy, I'd really like to see some, I mean, I brought that up a long time ago about letters. And I know that was something, sorry, I'm closer to it.
What? Sorry.
The attendance letter.
Oh, the
The
letter.
attendance nature letter. I brought this up before. It was anything, maybe years past, I should say. So I would really like to see some improvement process because I felt it's always having children who were at medical needs and receive some of these attendance like very negative in nature, and not appropriate in my life. Time. There's some slight changes.
And I can tell you the building administrators have already revised some of them, and I can get some copies back and forth just so you can see. There you go.
For the library book selections, I assume their librarians are involved in drafting a policy.
So we would ask them to sit down on that portion of the policy review and bare minimum ask for their input before we forward it into the board.
I'm just wondering, just generally, thinking about board policy, intents, like, I'm just wondering, how are we gonna preserve like the 30,000 foot view that the board usually takes, like thinking across the landscape of policy in general? That's just something that I'm just always thinking about, like, how does the board create targets? You know, how do we look at, but that's kind of just what I'm thinking, 30,000 foot view, not getting pulled into operations, having a clear delineation.
And I think that's the importance of the discussion on policy versus regulation. Policy is, yes, we have at least some guardrails up on the outside of whatever the issue is. The regulation is truly how are the administrators going to choose to enact that. That's where it gets into the deeper dive on that. You're absolutely right. Policy needs to stay at the 30,000 foot over.
And I want to say guardrails and goals,
And
right?
goals.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll just briefly go into our recent CCS meeting that occurred on Wednesday, April 29th. We had our program review updates. I'm happy to report that our E&L department has completed their program review and they submitted their recommendations and their program goals. So they are ready to present to the board. We will probably have them present in the very early fall in September for that one. We have 2 that will be coming to us in June as part of my curriculum presentations, my on the road show with curriculum. We are going to have our health update, our program review. They had made some updates. So I'm going to save that for our June Board of Ed meeting. And we have one for physical education that will be occurring. And they did talk about the updates they had made. So we will bring those to the board at our June Board of Education meeting. The athletic code of conduct was discussed briefly at CCS in asking for recommendations or discussion items related to, what are things we should bring to academic council at Columbia High School. The decision was they felt that was a good place to start the conversation, to make some revisions or to possibly put some updates in there to really make sure that we had the voice of the teachers and the coaches and all parties involved. Summer curriculum writing, I gave an update. We had 13 proposals that were submitted and we had our subcommittee review them, and I'm putting forward 12 of the proposals for your approval tonight, which is listed. That's the next one down. So when a teacher submits proposals, they have to include statement of need, proposal, such as their rationale, goals and objectives that they're going to achieve for this curriculum writing or mapping, how they're going to implement it, an outline of that, how they're going to evaluate it, and what will the budget be. And we have a budget for that. That is a budget line already existing. And we, like I said, we have it approved there, and we have things such as science, lots of things shifting and transitioning in our science department with the next generation science standards, new exam. We had a few in math, we had a few in art, we had economics one, because we do have our high school boards, and a library one that we actually submitted that they're going to be bringing some STEM work to our grade 3 elementary libraries. So I'll be looking, I do believe I need approval on those.
How do you get the question, the approved budget? Is that what the teacher gets paid? Is that what that is?
Yes, that's what they would get paid. Yes. It's based on our hourly $47.50 rate. Okay.
These are contractual.
This is not in the contract, just the special grants is not summer internship. Just to wrap up CCS, we talked a little bit about personal finance education. The New York State Board of Regents officially adopted that, and we are now required as of next year to put personal finance education at the middle level, which is grades 5 through 8, and the high school level 9 through 12. we are currently working on again, we do have a personal finance education update that will happen for the middle school. They will go into our FACS classes, our family and consumer sciences. So she's going to be writing curriculum to align and update her curriculum. And at the high school level, we are going to be putting them in a variety of CTE classes. And I would like to bring more information on that next year as we develop it and as our journey through our personal finance education. I just want to also, we had talked a little bit about the rubric for accelerated. One of the things we decided is to kind of slow play it a little bit and just kind of go at it this year with more of a pilot and put it up against what we're currently using to determine eligibility and use the rubric alongside of it and collect a little bit more data. We just felt like we needed a little bit more time with that. So we will present that next year and let you know how it worked out for this year.
I have a quick comment. I really love your identification of a goal for the program review for English language learners, right? Where you say, I just want to emphasize this, right? A focus being to develop English language proficiency. And then you go on to how to measure the goal, right? Wider access results will be used to inform instructional decisions. I really love like goal thinking, measurement, and I definitely appreciate your thought leadership. Like it shows, like your thought leadership shows throughout the whole.
That program review committee did an outstanding job. Very thoughtful. Yeah, I do appreciate that. I know they will appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, I got it. Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Portrait of a graduate, I just gave a quick update on, because that is part of CCS now. The subcommittee worked to align New York State and the East Greenbush portrait, and we are now having our graphic design class at the high school develop a one-pager that we will be bringing to our committee on May 18th. And we are just started to work on our updated roadmap and timeline for our portrait, or what we're going to be doing in terms of that portrait, our strategic plan, and making sure it's all aligned. Peter provided a very nice technology update. As you heard, we have a policy that we're bringing to our policy committee that we are making as a recommendation. He also has been doing a great job of bringing in a lot of instructional work and really helping to build capacity with that team. Professional Development Committee will be reconvening on May 11th, which is Monday. I asked the committee to bring forward to any committee members before Monday. I even asked them to join to help me develop our professional development plan. That's the CCS meeting.
Just a comment. With summer curriculum writing, there's a favorable robotics based program for third grade.
So that is the one that Belltop is, and now Green Meadow is going to be doing together.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to suggest that if future board meetings, that we get a demonstration.
Yeah. So
Visit the classroom and see what's going on there.
it will actually be something that they do in the library. So, and Felice Devine and Heather Giglio are the ones leading that, but we also have Green Meadow involved now, the librarian over there, Green Meadow, Laura, and third grade teacher Amy Garabelli. And they're actually, I encourage them to work with some of the local colleges and universities. So SUNY Albany has a program called Makerspace on the Move. And I don't know if anyone saw we had a news story at Green Meadow, and they brought in, anyone's happy to see the drones and robotics that work. So that I told them to really reach out to those sources, because they are free, isn't always necessarily good, but in this case, it actually is. These are amazing programs.
It does help us connect to the work that we're doing. Some of the realities when the teachers are finished. Seeing what the impact is on those the investor resources.
This is the one, yes. It's
The
the
approval for the fund.
It's the third, it's the memo. It's the third one down.
We have to do it. Or we can just do it. I think we'll do that next.
Can I just, not a concern, but more of a question. So the first document talks about the cost, your memo.
You're looking at the memo.
Yeah, the memo has a
third
cost
one.
of, say, for example, robotics, $4,750. And when you click on it, it says the total cost is $8,000. Because it includes, so,
So I can tell you a little bit, so.
well, where's the, I don't,
I can tell you.
where's the cost come, is that budgeted? Is that part of the summer budget? Like,
So when I can explain that to you, help you understand. So when you submit a proposal, you submit what you would like to do. The committee makes the determination. You have a conversation about, for example, that particular budget was asking for supplies. I'm gonna come right out and say they wanted a 3D printer. Which is a wonderful idea, but to sustain a 3D printer, to bring that to one school, really, if you think about what we try to do as an elementary, as a district with 5 elementary schools, we try to create equity. Not at the elementary levels, no.
I don't know that.
So to bring one in and to sustain it financially right now it's just not the right time, although we had alternative pathways that they could take that I think were just as future driven and forward thinking. So that really, half of that amount, 8,000, was that budget. And it was a couple other supplies that they wanted to buy. So I asked them to relook and they submitted, I will give you their updated proposal.
no, before that was water. So what they proposed was 8,100, but what they received was 47. These are the final costs.
But from a process perspective, I mean, that's a 50% budget cut, so the teacher has verified that they can still complete the work
Yes.
with the reduced budget.
Any other questions? This is going on. New York State assessments. Okay. So we're back to our curriculum and instruction roadshow. This will be my third presentation of the spring season, and we've talked a little bit about data. We've talked about the needs of our students. This is where we're going to highlight and shine academically. So there are many ways that we can shine on our district, and this is just one area that I really wanted to highlight because this is across the spectrum. Great. I feel as though you cannot perform it to such an exceeding and exemplary way without the entire district being part of the process. So I'd like to just get started here, say assessment summary for the school year, and I do have some trends for you as well over the course of 3 years. So East Greenbush Central School District, what we wanted to do is highlight a couple, the philosophy. What is our belief regarding assessments? So one of the things New York State and Regents exams can really provide is a unified standard across the state. It allows us to really provide an objective check, so to say, how we are doing up against the statewide rigorous standards that really are out there. We can validate and refine district-wide programs. So think of it like a wellness check. We're allowed to see how are our programs doing? How are our teachers doing? Are we, what we're investing in terms of our curriculum writing, are we seeing the results? Are we yielding positive results? It's allowing us to enhance data-driven instruction. A lot of the schools will actually take and do a deep dive into the results because you can look at what's called item analysis and you can see how we're doing very, very specifically and target and provide supports in our intervention framework. So you all know about the MTSS coordinator that we had and we still have now with Ms. Harrison. But in our MTSS pathways, this is one of the many multiple measures that we have that we can use to help allocate our AIS services. And then I always think to, when it comes to statewide exams, whether it's the New York State exams or if it's a Regents exam, AP exams, we have just recently the CTE was telling me that they just did their certification exams. Any exam, it really can give us that brain stamina that we need, right? Confident learners. Of course, you're a graduate. We're trying to establish confident learners. You might be saying, well, how? By giving a test. Exams can be rigorous. They're challenging. And by saying, as a parent, I say, I need you to show up for this. And I need you to do it. I need you to try. I need you to just do your best. And by us establishing that philosophy here to say, you're in a safe, you're in a quiet environment, we're asking you to take an opportunity and show what you know. So I just wanted to emphasize to everyone that in New York State, we have just recently gone computer-based testing grades 3 through 8. So I'm going to highlight the 3 through 8 exams first. In 2023, it was 5 and 8 only, and then we very quickly moved to 3, 8 entirely. So as you're looking at the data, just keep that in mind. If you're noticing any fluctuations in data where you may have noticed a drop, say, we went CBT. We were paper-based, and then we went to CBT, computer-based testing. Regents exams are not computer-based tests, they're still paper-based. ELA, the math exam, we also shifted and transitioned to the new next generation learning standards. So think of, we used to be Common Core, now it's next generation. And then for science, I'm not sure if anyone's heard a little bit about the new science exams, very rigorous, very demanding, a reading test. Ultimately, they provide cluster questions. And to me, it's really talking to us about the future of what we want our portraits to have: critical thinkers, problem solvers, effective communicators. That's really what the science exam is now testing. So I'm going to try to get through. Now there's a lot of data slides, so I'm going to try to jump through these pretty quickly for you. And I'll try to help just provide a really quick understanding of this. This is a 3-year cohort trend. So remember what I said about when we started CBTs? We were paper-based in, I'm just going to say 2023. If you take the 3rd grade cohort, all right, let's take the 4th grade one because paper-based, and then 5th grade the next year, so 69% 4th, 55% for those that same cohort, we went CBT. So you understand that's maybe why there is a decrease. But then what I wanted to point out was notice, follow them, go to 6th grade. They're back up to 72. Your trend. This is for mathematics as well. So I'm also pointing this out as well. I wanted to just say that what is percent proficiency? There are 4 levels at the grades 3 through 8. We have level 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you are in the level 3 and 4, you're considered you're proficient. Now, there is a small percentage in the level 2 category that also makes you proficient as well. But I just highlighting, trying to stay consistent in terms of levels 3 and level 4. And remember, go back to the RTI triangle. Do you remember? 80% is where we want, when you want to feel healthy. If you want to say, how are we doing as a district? That temperature check, if we're right around that 80%, then you're saying, okay, we're doing okay. Can we be doing better? Of course. But I'm going to say we really do an amazing job, and this is quite impressive.
The computer-based testing and the way we select which grades in the grades, does the state tell us like, oh, these grades have to do computer-based, or do districts do it to discretion whether it's?
That's a great question, actually. So New York State provided what they called an implementation timeline. They've said, we are allowing you to phase it in. So back in the year that 5th and 8th grade, that was required because they said phase in 5 and 8. And then the following year, you were supposed to phase in, think of that, follow me. You're supposed to phase in 4 and 7. 6, sorry. 6. Yeah, it was a little different. So people are like, why not 7? But we decided just to go 3, 8.
So we're ahead of schedule.
We are ahead. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to continue to show you. Remember, always remember that 80% where are we at. The other thing that I want to show you is that this is a comparison. So again, ELA results. I wanted to show you how we were faring against other districts. So Cluster 3, BOCES has 21 component districts. Merrick includes Capital Region. You can see all those counties, a much larger area. And then New York State has 730 schools. And we clearly and consistently outperform all other areas of regions. Okay, mathematics, same. Even more impressive, consistently and significantly exceeding component school districts. This is by grade level. So what I wanted to do is then show you, this is by district. So again, if you take the entire East Greenbush School District, 3 through 8, 68% completion. So we're clearly exceeding our, again, component 21 districts in cluster 3, all the narrative districts and New York State schools.
This is good information. I think that one thing that always intrigued me though is how do we compare it to the other schools in the region? You know, we're always comparing ourselves, right?
I'm just like to ask the same question, suburban council, yeah.
So, I mean, in the future, is there a way to get that data pulled out in schools? Through their request?
Well, Merrick, Quester 3 has 21 schools. So I'll give you an example of a few schools that I would consider a comparative. We are, Skodak, Averill Park, Troy.
I like to compare us with this.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be the Merricks. That would be Merrick.
Yeah, but Narek includes is so.
Again, just asking for a future look to see if we're comparing ourselves to those schools. As a group. But I get the direction and state.
I just want to add, I'd love to see particular student groups, like who's like overperforming, who's underperforming, like, and just to say, looking forward as a district and where we like to target. Like, I definitely know I'm doing wonderful, but I just wonder.
Kind of negative. I don't know. I think the comparison in itself is sort of a negative thing, and I feel like if you have specific student groups, that can be sort of like.
What do you think is elementary schools? No,
What are you thinking?
No, so I totally understand like how it can sound that way. Well, what I was trying to say always is that, right, if some students are consistent.
Sorry,
No, right? It's important conversations, right? And it's like, but if some students are consistently lagging, right, but the average kind of makes it so that you can't see them, right, in an 80% number. Now, let's say there's a student that consistently gets a student population, right, group that gets 20%. That's not saying that there is, right? But what I say is, like, as a board, you want to say, I'd imagine, like, do we need dedicated resources or to think about doing something different? And if we can't see it because we're blinded by the average, right? Like, so I'm wondering just how do we tease that out to kind of.
Yeah, I understand. I just feel like if anything, like this is an average. Like I don't feel like this would be helpful for that, but I understand what you're saying.
Nice, that data exists as a report card.
Yes, for sure.
Economic
Yeah.
experience, especially for
Yes.
disabilities.
Yes.
Pieces like that, level 1, 2.
Yes.
It's not just a little algorithm you want to get with that kind of information.
But our departments do, right? Your math department, they'll look at their sub-component groups to make sure that they're not missing students. We report out and look at poverty levels and ethnic diversity, special education. So I think that work is done. It's just not poorly done like this, but the New York State report card does delineate all that so that you have to carefully look at that and make sure we're really exposed.
I do want to say though, like, I'm wondering, like, as a board, like, do like, what we not want? You know, it's like, I'm just wondering from a board perspective, like, would we not want that visibility? Actually, like, do we want it, like, like, at the curriculum level? Like, that's kind of just kind of what I'm wondering.
I think it's a great question. I think, how do we know we're investing our resources in the right way? I think it's a really good point. Yeah.
The analysis is internal. And then when the analysis is completed, they see the gaps. So when the gaps arise, you get things that could happen where you develop other supports for students, and they'll come back to us for that ask. And the curriculum could be, AIS, corrections, could be other kinds of things. And then we would support them given the request based on the analysis of data.
That's very important to keep in mind. Where does the decision-making authority lie? If you were to sit with any of our elementary principals, talk about their data team meetings, these are regular conversations that happen at the building level, on the student level. So when you start to talk about disaggregated data and you're looking at specific demographic groups within your building, those are happening regularly at the school level. Was making those requests and go to Lisa's office, and when we get to budget development, those are reflected in, well, wait a minute, we are coming up short in whatever the subgroup is. We could use additional supplies, additional testing materials. Ask as always personnel, but looking at from backwards design model, this is really a bottom up conversation. I would say it's more effective coming from our teachers, from our building administrators, really know what the resources are. Doesn't mean that the board should look at the data, but just how do we address any of the shortcomings that we see? I'd really want to hear from my classroom teachers, from my building administrators, because I get to visit a building once every 4 weeks. They're there every day in every class.
And they don't know, I don't think that demographic data is built into the state tests, are they? Like, they don't know what, say, like the income bracket of the student taking the exam, right? Don't they just get all of the results?
No, we do get
For individual.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We get individual student reports with different identifying data based on every student's state.
These tests. Oh, wow.
Yes.
One of the things too, just to remind everyone that this is it's one exam. And I'll go back to in my very beginning when I talked about the MTSS journey, and that it's just one measure that we look at when we try to determine, we allocate services, we allocate programs, we allocate additional supports. I would never want someone to say, just looking at the New York State test to make any determination without looking. That's that whole child model. We should be looking at multiple measures. This is one measure. So I'm going to go to, because this was a conversation we had a couple weeks ago about the STAR Universal Screener. Some of you might be saying, okay, well, we give this universal screener. This is 3 times a year. One of the things I said that I would do is I would give you what the projected, how it was doing in terms of projecting and allowing us to get a sense of where are we at in terms of proficiency. So what I did is I provided you with the middle of the year. This is from last year because we don't have this year's results yet. So I went back and looked at middle of the year data for our ELA. Remember, the middle of the year screening is conducted in January, and many of these exams are given in April or May. So we have additional months that are occurring, but you can see that they're making projections of proficiency that are accurate for the most part, with some level of increase or almost staying about the same. So I just wanted to say to you, it is giving us almost like it's just a quick snapshot to say, how are we doing in January? What work do we need to be doing? From January to April to help bridge some gaps, help with the achievement gap. So this is for ELA. I also want to point out that the universal screener is only a multiple choice exam. It only tests vocabulary and comprehension, where the state exam includes a component on mathematics exam. Very similar. You can see the projected proficiency levels and then what they actually scored. So again, a couple months you have of additional instruction. Math, one of the things is multiple choice, where the math exam for the state includes multiple choice, and they have open-ended questions as well. So doing a pretty good job predicting, letting us know. This is a time where we would look at this data and capture in January and say, I've had teachers come to me where they're looking at reports and they're saying, I've got 2 students that they came to me and want to know what they can be doing. So we do have our teachers looking at that, and our data team meetings also are occurring right after this middle of the year. We do an AMP week, which is in between our end of the year and our middle of the year. So we are meeting every 6 weeks on these students. Try to get through. Just quickly talk about science. We talked a little bit about being a reading test, very rigorous. We started that exam in 23-24. You'll notice that our proficiency level was a little low, but notice that we went up in both 5th and 8th grade. It is now being administered in 5th and 8th grade. This is our comparison up against, again, remember Questar, 21 component school districts, Merrick, New York State, 730 schools. That's our proficiency in the level 3 and 4 for science. So some of you asked how we're ranking, right? What are we compared? Not that I didn't want to show you how we were up against Averill Park and Skodak. Rather than do that, what I wanted to just let you know is that we're ranked 1 out of 22. We're number 1 in ELA for 3 through 8. And we're number 1 out of 22 again, plus our 3 districts. 68% proficiency, 76%, and we're ranked 77 out of 730 districts. I should have asked Jen what percentage that was. But I want to say that's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. 50 in that out of 730. So I'll just quickly go into Regents exams. This is a little bit shorter. One of the things we're going through with Regents, we're doing a lot of transitions again. We have, it's the same thing with the 3 through 8 exams. We've got the old Common Core, and now we're going to the next generation. And with exams, and if you would like to know when the exams are being phased in, I do have a document that I can share with everybody of when we are phasing in the new next generation exams for the different regions. So this is just a highlight, but I wanted to point out and celebrate. Well, first thing I just wanted to point out is that the high school students are still taking these exams all on paper, where our 3 through 8 are computer-based. And they're doing pretty amazing. They're doing amazing as well. But East Greenbush Central School District is ranked out of those 21 plus our 3 districts, ranked 5 of the exams, I'll look at in a minute, ranked number 1, 2 are ranked number 2, and 3 are ranked number 4. So we are doing an exceedingly amazing job. So this is the New York State Region exam results. So in ELA and in your social studies Regents exams, there are 5 levels. If you're in level 3, 4, or 5, you're defined as being proficient. So that's what this 65 to 100% is considered proficiency. Okay, just to give you a sense, 90s. So these are showing you the comparison up against Questar, Merrick. I tried to make it as consistent as I could. The colors are not consistent. Sorry about that. But Questar, Merrick, New York State, and East Greenbush again are exceeding the other districts, the regions, and the state in general. Global and ELA were defined as number 1. Again, that's in the Questar 3, and U.S. History and government were number 2. Right. Math. Again, I'm going to go through these quickly. Algebra was ranked number 4, geometry and algebra 2 were number 1. Just to point out for the math, we did in math, I wanted to let you know that in the math exams, we did start taking the new exams in 2025 for algebra 1 and for geometry. And just 2 more. So this is a comparison. I know that oftentimes the board likes to look at over several years. So this is over several years. So for 3-year, again, if you just remind you all that if you take, for example, this is New York State Regents for ELA. Again, if you look at the Algebra 1, so if you look at last year, 24, the year before, that is 2 years ago, 95, and then if you go to 24, 25, which is last year, taking the new exam, and really, we went down slightly, but it's an exam. And I think anytime there's a time where you're making transitions, you're going to see a slight, and I think we'll rise right back up again. Science, career. Before we finish and say questions, I wanted to just say a couple things. So these results are largely due to a couple things: consistency, ongoing professional development, targeted professional development, a focus on scientifically research-based programming, curriculum work, book studies, focused on, any type of common assessments that we'll put together. Consistency with rigorous programming. We don't just, we like to challenge our students. Regardless of their ability level, we're always challenging them at their personalized level. Targeted multi-tier supports and services. And I would be remiss if I did not say who are largely credited for this work. And it is our outstanding teachers at all our levels, K-12. And when someone says it truly takes a village to raise children, our East Greenbush students, it truly does. And I just want to give a shout out to all of our teachers for Teacher Appreciation Week. So this isn't, this is largely due to them as well. Thank you. Any
Quick-
questions?
Quick comment.
Yeah.
Holly, thank you so much for your comment. Registered lady, exactly what you, registered lady, exactly what you meant. The stigma attached, right, to pulling out a student or a group that's under, I totally hear you now. I totally missed you at first, so I appreciate that. I hear exactly what you're saying.
Just a comment. One of the things that we help, I think, the board is to understand that this is important board members. Data work has been going on since Mr. McKee was here. And the administrators, I think, would be helpful to understand what the analysis and level of detail that we'll be doing over time, maybe a board retreat or something like that, and then how these reports are used by our faculty and administrators to understand how our students are performing, make those adjustments. Like you said, targeting the curriculum changes and resources, and we understand how that process works. Because it really kind of, it's always been amazing the results that kids are getting. So thank you to the faculty. And just that emphasis on how can we use data to improve instruction, learning for our students. That process is very involved. There's a lot of training, work for everyone to get it, and we're getting there. Understand that work and reflecting on that work and how we can support that work more is good.
I just have a quick comment, and I just want to just say again, like I love where we are today. Only thing I worry about is just with such high averages, right? Like that's really my only concern. Is just that if there are subgroups, just how do we target? How do we provide visibility? That's just all I'm thinking. Like if there was a need for resources and the board was like, we really are concerned about this. So I'm just wondering, like, how do we communicate that? That's all.
And I want you to know that I look at that as no child is invisible in our district, because we did take an approach several years ago now to really look at the whole child. And that's a big part of our data team process. And it's to really not miss any student, that we really do look at data and we really are analyzing and we are really targeted and focused. And I feel like that's really one of the promising things and then one of the positive things that have been occurring in the district. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. About a week and a half ago, we had our finance and audit committee meeting. Mrs. Ashley and Mr. Shane was there. This was a meeting where we had some updates from our HR officer, Michael Wolf of Michael Wolf Advisory Services. So as part of just school financial accountability, we have to annually go through a risk assessment process and some targeted internal audit areas. Those reports were completed and reported on, and ultimately we end up filing that with the state education department. There's no corrective action plans needed, so they were clean reviews for the risk assessment report and the internal audit report on education. Another area that we reviewed is, as Dr. Coates mentioned, the proposed changes to the credit card policy. So there's a lot of information within the minutes, the red line policy, the current policy, and what changes we're looking to make, which ultimately will strengthen controls, help improve, streamline some administrative issues that we've been encountering, and just really update with some So we reviewed that with the committee, and that policy had been reviewed by our legal counsel and our internal are also the teachers. And then the last piece is we've been regularly giving investment updates to the committee. I'm pleased to report that we did receive an award in December. This award just showing exceptional liquidity stewardship. So we did receive that award, and then also just a report out on investment earnings since we started the program back in January of 2024. The district has earned just over $5.1 million in interest over a 36-month period. So there were some comments and questions of the committee wanting to learn more about the investment and program, and so there was some additional information provided in close that meeting just to educate a little bit on this.
First question, Mr. Swan. Thinking about the investments we're making, the potential for financing bus purchases. Like what I'm wondering is there any ability, and it's okay if we don't have an answer today, but I'm just wondering, is there any ability to offset the interest if we were to finance? And I'm just wondering, like from the bus reserves to the financing decision.
So one of the things in terms of the investments is that our reserves are earning interest.
Yes.
And that interest is being credited back to the applicable reserve. So the bus reserve is receiving interest based on its share of the total reserves of the overall balance.
If it's looking forward and thinking about financing, I'd be interested to know, thinking about the interest.
You're looking for what the financing costs are.
And how much would be offset from the investment, like, you know what I mean?
Well, once we start financing, there'd be little use of the reserve at that point. So there wouldn't be any investment during some of the reserve. It would be grossly depleted with the exception of the CD that comes in that would perhaps help reduce some. So right now, the bus purchase reserve is being funded through the state aid that we receive, interest earnings, and then any allocations that the Board of Education decides into that reserve. In part of the reserve updates that happen in. So basically, it's a savings account, and that savings account interest is being allocated back to that savings. So once we get into the land of financing the bus purchases, we would be using the reserve, basically.
Yeah. That's what I'm wondering, could we?
So there'd be an interest.
Could we finance, because I wonder, could we finance earlier? Because like I say, the idea of spending interest, I don't know, but that's just what I'm wondering. Like, I would love the idea of not paying interest.
Well, ultimately, we're right now our own source of financing. So we're saving money. If we start incurring interest costs, to incur costs with legal counsel for bonding financing.
I think you're trying to decide whether the interest that we would pay on the note is going to be less than the interest that we're earning. And I think it's going to be wrong because the interest right now is high because the interest rates are high.
So connecting to the capital project. So that's where right now we're borrowing funds on the capital project. And those proceeds that are not being used yet are being invested. We are earning interest on those monies, which is offsetting our interest costs. So, but that's because we have a pool of money that's sitting, and then we're also being cautious and watching for any arbitrage relief, which we're not encountering because of the spend down plan. So, in that case, the bus purchase cycle, you're basically, purchasing a bus for in the high $100,000, you're going to finance it and you're going to pay the vendor right away. So there's not any borrowing, any cash that's like sitting in the bank for any period of time that you would be investing and then, paying that debt service. So you'd be basically just incurring, the interest costs on that. So whereas in a capital project, we're borrowing a whole 12 months ahead of time, and that construction schedule is happening throughout the year. So we're drawing down on those funds throughout the year. So basically there's a pool of money that's available to earn interest at the same time you're incurring interest costs. And that was it. Any other questions?
Except for Robert wanted to put all the money into crypto.
So we also have to say,
That is not true.
a word
You
about-
said word, so
That's-
just in case.
You know, make a transcript. Never under that.
See what the minutes say.
Yeah.
Final, report, Zach.
Okay, that's me. So what is passed around right now is a report. It's a snapshot currently of where we're at in the hiring process, primarily for next school year. So starting from the top, we have already posted and the posting is closed for our Director of Data and Technology. And soon we'll be assembling the committee. And we have the upcoming interviews, tentative dates set. So today we discussed the members that we're going to be putting together for this committee. The assistant principal to replace Riley O'Malley at the middle school. That posting will be going out on Monday. Mr. McHugh is going to work closely with us on the job description. Moving down to teachers, the high school is in very good shape and ahead of the game compared traditionally from years past. They're currently in the interview process on 3 of those positions and have already filled 2, one of which was something we've been trying to fill for over a year the first time, so we finally nailed that. So we're very pleased and excited to have that behind us. This morning, I met with Mr. Harkin. And we, after reviewing his student signups for courses and his master schedule, we determined that one last course, position that was to replace the physics teacher now would be shifted to biology. We have had some recent experience of individuals that have the ability to teach some physics courses. So we didn't need to hire for it. So that shifted, and we need to stay current with what the student signups are and where the need is. So we're moving along pretty well at the high school. I'm very encouraged with that. So moving down to the ESOL, that will be posted to start next year because we've already posted 2 times. We didn't glean someone from there. And what we discovered was some of the people that we interviewed said they felt really bad leaving their school district mid-year. And they said, too bad this doesn't start next year. I'd be willing to give them notice. They set the job. So we're shifting our focus in that direction. So just today, we posted for Mr. McHugh's or Gottman School special education. He has 4 of them, and the reason why there's so many there is because there was a lot of internal transfers that Mr. McHugh honored in his building and other requests, which shifted the positions hired at the middle school. So that posting will close for those 4 positions on May 19th, and more to come on that. Just this past Monday, I met with Mr. Grignon, Mr. Garib, Mr. O'Malley, and the committee from Green Meadow and from Janae, and we interviewed 14 teachers that were applied for 7 anticipated elementary teaching positions. This meant we had 125 candidates, which was very encouraging. And I'm starting to see an uptick in applicants finally after several years.
Quick question. Just wondering, how many special education teachers will we have before? Like, because 4 just sounds like a big number. Just staff. 11. Okay. All right.
Thank you. All right, so moving on. So we're very encouraged. The interviews are complete. We felt very confident that we had some very good candidates and we were pleased, and we decided together as a committee that we could select 5 and vote. So we're in the process currently of checking references and, hopefully we get that ironed out by the end of the week.
Was there any candidates that could go towards the other position?
There is, and the reason why we didn't hire all 7, which we felt we could have, because it was so good. It was very hard to choose at the end, was because we honored some internal transfers that had gone on, so it shifted. 2 teachers left one school to another, and then based on the EGTA contract that we did an internal posting for 5 days, which kind of wasn't that. So we're moving forward with that. So those 2 positions that you see coming up will now land at DPS and health. So moving on, there's also we're going to be posting for looking ahead for maternity leaves in those buildings. So we don't want to wait till the summertime to do that as well. So the last one on this first page is our CSE chairperson. That's the TOSA that works with PPS. That will be posted in the coming weeks. So the back page is our TAs, which we're not as far ahead with this because there are still some internal movement and decisions we have to make in-house basically first, and also waiting to hear about some staff that will be retiring. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's short and sweet. I can answer any questions if you have any.
The only question I have is that, I know typically the board are involved with the interview process. The director of data and technology administrative high level administrative position, is there going to be a board?
We still haven't really fully filled out the schedule. We have some tentative dates once we have that put together. Yes. Same thing with the assistant principal. Once it gets to the assessment level. Yeah.
And so if there's no further questions, that will conclude our time. Thank you, everyone.
Anything for discussion items? So regular business, summer 2026 driver education. Any comments, questions? Okay, motion to approve. Kathy, second, Rob, all those in favor?
Is that why Mr. Turner was here? Yes. Wow, let's sit him back over.
I'm sorry, I do have a question. Do students pay to register for this?
For driver's ed?
Yes. Yes, okay.
There is no increase. Mr. Tucker.
There has been an increase in 2 years.
So there's no increase in every year.
Thanks for doing that, Jeff.
Yeah, that's great.
Great program. I learned how to taught me how to drive, so it was great.
Wow.
Over the summer. It's been some good.
Look at that testimony right there.
Stay off the road there.
So, Ms. Hoffman, Mr. McHugh, if you don't mind coming up before we move on to the next item. We had shared out this contract for something that we're closing for the middle school. As Mr. McHugh and Ms. Hoffman to be here tonight to report an update. That, over to
Yeah, just to kick it off, this initiative falls under our shared #1 priority, which is school safety. And the school safety is much more than our secure doors and our vestibule. It's ensuring that our students come to school and feel welcomed and they feel safe. We do look at our data. I've been fortunate enough to work at all levels, K through 12, and middle school is quite different. We have 940 students that range between 10 and 14 that enter our doors. We do look at our data. We look at our academic data. We look at our discipline data, and we dig a little deeper into that data. And one of the things that's kind of alarming to us is the number of discipline referrals that fall under the category of harmful language. So things that kids are saying that are inappropriate. And to be honest, most of the time during that academic day, we are reactive. We'll find out, or we'll see a discipline referral and we respond, we react to it. But when we look at that data and we dig into it, We look at students that have made that mistake and then have made that mistake again, and in some situations have made that mistake again. So we're looking at the instructional component. We are a very unique district. We serve a very diverse student population. The homes that our students come from, a lot of different perspectives on what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. What we do, we drive what's acceptable in our school building. So regardless of what those rules are at home and what's acceptable, are things that are not acceptable within our school building. So one of the things that's been hard to address is the harmful language. Perception becomes reality. Students say things, they go home and share it with their parents. Parents call other parents, we get the phone call. So this initiative really came from there. And what I will say is that the part that's appealing to me, it's an outside group coming in and taking a look at us and giving us feedback. They may tell us the things that we do well. They may tell us the things that we're not doing as well as we could be. It could be simple aesthetics. You guys don't have any murals on your wall, or some of your quotes on the wall, or things that you believe in, or things that you stand for, your non-negotiables. Where are they in print where kids repeatedly see them? So there's a lot that could come from this. And this is something that Sarah has worked on for several years now. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
So, last year we started some work with this initiative with Mediation Matters. We had a group of teachers and in our building that were willing to participate in some of this work. Unfortunately, it just really never got any traction. And while I think the intent was there, they would send a different person every time. We kind of felt like we were restarting each meeting. The meetings were inconsistent. So Ms. McHugh and I, reached out to a couple different groups, and the Center for Law and Justice was able to respond to us and give us kind of like an idea of what kind of work we can start doing. So we had a planning meeting 2 weeks ago where Tayshawn Murdoch, who was kind of leading this work, met with us, the administrative staff, and just kind of gave us an overview of, how this is going to look and how this is not going to be kind of like a, come into the building, tell us what to do and leave. It's going to be an ongoing process where we bring in, student groups, we bring in parents, we bring in staff members, and what they are going to do initially. So we're going to start our work this spring, and then really kick it off in the fall, just given the timeline of, end of the school year type of a thing. But at least our initial work will give us an idea of, what they get from the climate of the building. So their team will come in, and I mean, even when Tayshawn came in 2 weeks ago, he spent almost 2 hours in the building. He would just talk to random students, ask them random questions. What's your favorite thing about Goff Middle School? And, the kids were very responsive. And then at one point, one kid thought that he was going to be our new assistant principal. So that was pretty funny. But in any event, so his presence alone, just within the 2 hours, I feel, and I think Mr. McHugh can say the same, I got more out of that than any work that we did with Mediation Matters last year. So it was very positive. And to go back to what Mr. McHugh was saying, he was like, there's the giant blank wall in the cafeteria. That's the makeshift wall for the library. He's like, can you paint that? Can you get kids to come in and put positive words on there? And it's temporary, but I bet you we could probably pull it off. And just, encouraging getting student involvement and beyond the clubs of the students, so that the students that wouldn't maybe normally participate or would be hesitant to participate or don't think that they can or whatever, do. And he said it's kind of like a organic way to start changing the mindset of our students, of our staff, where it's not like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. This is going to be restorative, and we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do this. And he said just bringing those things into the building will automatically just start getting people to kind of change their thoughts on, things. So it was a great meeting. So he's going to come back in if we get approval, and we're going to start just kind of talking about what the plan looks like. And I think one of the best things that Tayshawn had said was that they're not developing a plan without any data. They're coming in, they're going to be listening, they're going to be talking to students, talking to staff, and really getting a feel for it and say, this is what we saw, and now let's work together with the administrative team and decide like what will be best for the building. So, it was a great meeting and I'm really actually very much looking forward to working with them.
I'm just curious, what is the, and I'm sure you probably just described what the process looks like. I know you mentioned, starting this summer, looking into next year. And I'm just wondering, like, the components that's gonna go into building this. I probably heard like just the student. I'm just wondering, like, who's gonna be involved. I definitely heard the parents and students, but I'm just,
We've had a few meetings already. Some virtual, some in person. We've had our parents involved in those meetings. We've had student representation in those meetings. So they come in and kind of get the lay of the land a little bit, which I think is kind of a brave endeavor because they're letting an outside person or group come in and they're going to kind of assess what they see. And again, it's not just student behavior. It's faculty, staff, our non-negotiables. What do we stand for? Aesthetically, how's the building look? What is there things in print that kids can get that subtle message repeatedly over time? How do you handle the referrals? What are your number of referrals? Is it just a discipline consequence? Like you said something inappropriate, you're going to have detention for 2 nights. Is there anything restorative in there? Is the instructional component there? What we do know is bringing an outside speaker in to speak to our grade levels for 40 minutes or an hour, and then they leave, we don't get any traction. It doesn't work. It's got to be embedded. It's got to be at the forefront of what we're thinking. It's got to become part of our culture. So they help us get there. And I think based upon their interviews, their conversations with people, what they see, then they'll come back to us with a proposal of what that plan will be.
the Center for Law and Justice, is that Alice Green's old shop?
It was hers.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm a little familiar. 2 different districts, rollouts very similar to this. So my curiosity is, we've talked about 10 students being part of probably the train the trainer kind of. Is that what, will they be student leaders to move this forward? I think it's for 1 year. I don't know whether this is a contract that you would anticipate utilizing or whether you'll have a subgroup of people. 1 year isn't enough, right? To have that momentum, it has to keep going. So I'm just wondering what your end goal is. I heard a lot about restorative practices. That's a collective, there's a lot of culture building before you can move to that. So I'm just wondering what the shift and goal, what your end goal is about developing. I know that's one of your strategic plan goals, is developing community and environment, but that foundation, it sounds like they're providing you the information to do that work. So in that year, collecting that information, and then the work begins. Is that how?
Well, the work is going to begin really at the beginning of the school year. So the purpose, from what we understand with the different groups, you know, the students, the parents, the staff members, is just to kind of get a feel of, you know, what they see, what they hear, what they think. And then from there, kind of build a plan. And the restorative piece is, you know, people kind of balk at it a little bit because they assume like circles and stuff like that, which are great. But the way that it was explained to us, it's more like subtle. It's just like a change in your language, a change in how you approach something that is a more restorative approach and is more natural than actually implementing something, like you're doing it because you're already doing it. And so that's kind of the shift that we're looking for, because I think we'll get A, more buy-in, and B, I think it would definitely shift the mindset of, you know, what we're trying to accomplish over the course of next school year. And then beyond that, you know, hopefully that this kind of just grows into more of a culture shift where we can continue it into the following years, because it just has now become more of a natural experience in our building.
I would love to come check out one of these meetings. Just to kind of,
Absolutely.
Sure.
You know, from our experience, you know, kids will say things, and then when we have the discussion, they have no idea what the meaning behind that. They just don't know why it's offensive. I think that's important. I think the kids need to have consequences, but it's got to be the educational component too, so the behavior is not repeated. And when we look at our data, it is repeated. And this is something we're hopeful where we won't see that repeat of that same behavior.
One of the key components, and I'm sure it's embedded in here, is just the communication with families, because that was one of the mistakes that we made, was that shift to like, we're gonna have this open dialogue and everyone's gonna, you know, have this opportunity for warm and fuzzy conversation, and some of the parents were like, no. In another district, it was beautiful and worked great. So it's just knowing your population and knowing what families will receive from the school and where that balance is.
Yeah, I think this has been responsive to our parents. I do see it that way. I think it's responsive to our students. You know, we have students that have participated in some of these conversations that have been victims of harmful language. We have parents of children who's been part of that negative interaction. And then some of our students that were involved in it and were the perpetrator, they're involved too, and they're getting a whole other part of an education.
We need both sides, right? I'd love to get the feedback from everyone's perspective, because that's how it will shape.
I have more of a board. I think this sounds very interesting and very positive. Thank you for being here and explaining it. Is this budget? And like, it was in last year's budget, and the scope of work started in March. It's May, we're reviewing this. It's more just the mechanics of like the role of the board and six.
The work has, yeah.
But the scope of work says March.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not like, again,
No,
program sounds great.
we
Forget
haven't,
firewall here.
Yeah.
What does this mean from a board perspective?
we haven't agreed to do this with them yet. All the meetings that we've had have been to what could it be? Those meetings.
So to get to the heart of the budget question, when you talk about discretionary funds, building level budget lines have contractual ones, they have latitude to make discretionary decisions within their budget. Any expense that comes from it is appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And then also because contracts maybe next year comes in the entire contract that will next year. That's kind of this year's budget. Thank you. Very good. Not a content question or value, or just the mechanics of it.
See, in the phases in month 10, the goal is to have a sustainability plan. Is it sort of like after that point, you could, working 10 months on this, that you'd be able to kind of do it yourselves after that? Like they can kind of, there's enough training and
that is the hope.
Yeah.
Again, it's got to become part of your culture. It's we're looking at a culture change, a culture shift, a mindset change. So that the hope is that once they've worked with us and they have helped us develop a plan, that they can leave and we can sustain that plan.
what I really liked about what I was hearing was that it was students, faculty and staff, parents, and I hope that the students know that the faculty and staff in particular are also doing this work, like that it's not just like, oh, you kids did something wrong, but like, no, like we as people who are the responsible adults in the room also have to self-reflect and work on this and change our culture and our thinking. And yeah, it's hard to do, but to know that like, oh, as a community, we're doing it together to just produce something to each other. But yeah.
And, you know, I think it sounds great, and I'm kind of sad because I have an 8th grader who's going to be leaving the middle school and will be there for the bulk of this experience, which I wish he wouldn't. But I don't know if this is part of it. I don't know if this is something they do. And I know you're getting feedback from parents now. I don't know if there'll be like a parent component or a family component as you go through the process, but I think if there could be, that would be fantastic, because I think that it's something that everyone can benefit from. Like the whole community could benefit from it. So I don't know if there are going to be some like learning opportunities for a family or community, but
I think that's what's going to become, you know, once they kind of give us an outline of what they've collected it from data and what would work the best. But I agree with you on that. And I think Tayshaun had a really good point, and Mr. McHugh even said it, you know, let's say a 45-minute presentation from the Center of Law and Justice to, you know, 500 parents, like not sure how impactful that's going to be, but if we could start bringing in parents, you know, as we work, then, you know, the power of word of mouth and people kind of communicating like what we're doing in the building will grow, you know. So I think we could kind of tackle it that way.
How many other schools has Bridges, have they seen success?
Yes, so they've worked with, Albany, some schools in Albany. And I believe it was another district that he worked with.
He said he was gonna provide us another list so that we could even contact them and say, how did it go?
Right.
How's it sustained? Is it, you know?
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
Yes, all those in favor?
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, Mini Capital Improvement Project, secret. Any comments or questions on that? And things that the board. Okay, so for this one, we need a roll call vote. So I will start over with Kathy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
No table motions. Consent, any questions or comments? Motion to approve? Kathy, second, Cindy, all those in favor? Any more public comment?
Good evening, Dan Wagner, I'm the EPTA president. I'm just taking a point of privilege to get into the public record, what an amazing human being Angie Culligan is. She's, retiring as part of the consent agenda you just approved. Since the day I started working in East Greenbush, I've worked with Angie Culligan as a teaching assistant for a bunch of our at-risk programs. We started out in Jumpstart together. I do the Operation Graduation program with her. I am going to greatly miss her. I joked about quitting myself because she's leaving, but I will not be quitting. She is just a stellar human being, has really helped the Operation Graduation program be very successful. Huge shoes to fill. So I just want to make sure it's in the public record that she's amazing, and I'm really sad that she's going. I also just want to clarify, I would say, something that was stated earlier by some of the students. I'm proud of them coming to speak. We have amazing counselors at our school, and the kids have adults to speak to. I'm not trying to downplay anything that Amber Smith does. I hear really great things about her, but our counselors are amazing. They do great work. So they all have someone to talk to, and they always have adults that are there for them. We're all there for them in the building. So I just want to clarify that our counselors are amazing and really help all of our students whenever they possibly can. So thank you very much.
We also kind of rearranged tour. I didn't see it. But I think it would be helpful to use on-site books. I don't know where. And yeah, thank you.
Just want to say super congratulations to Mrs. Boucher, Green Meadow for one EGTA Teacher of the Year. So what an honor from her colleagues, and it was great to see Mr. Garrett busting a move on Instagram.
Yeah, I just want to say that, I think we have 3-year terms on the board, and there's a lot to understand about this district. And I really like the way that we're going, and like the conversations we're having about budget workshops in the summer. I love the comment about understanding the data process too. Like even just educating us that these things are happening, or how they're happening, and how they connect to larger things, and what is our role is immensely helpful. Again, it takes years to understand this, and some of us, just 3-year terms, you may not be here. So anything we can do to kind of keep onboarding, like even in year two, I learn more now than I did in year one in some ways, because I kind of understand the right questions to ask some of the time. I also would just say on the capital projects, I don't know if this, maybe we can think about at some point, like a public open house or inviting the public to a tour, because taxpayers did invest a lot of money in this, and the more we can, connect the district to the community, like we talked about, showing good steward of these really hard decisions we're making, I think is a good opportunity. So maybe that could be something we could do to kick off the school year or something like that.
So tonight, we do need an executive session to discuss the discipline of a particular person and to discuss collective bargaining and negotiation. So can I get a motion? Robert? And all those in favor?